Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. There are all those traditions. Being in a tradition can give a lot of comfort. One can feel somewhat safe in a framework, protected, following the directions of the tradition. It gives a feeling of security. And in all traditions, there is that essence. There is that original spark that still is alive. And within that tradition, it's always possible to connect with that. Unfortunately, the traditions have also quite a baggage, a lot of concepts, a lot of rules that lost their sense, that are fixed and not necessarily adjusted to the situation. They are also there. So in a tradition, one has to somehow find the way through all that and come to the essence of it. It's there in all the traditions, but one has to be alert, has to be sharp, and especially one has to be sincere. Now, Mariano asked me, he had contact with different traditions, had been for years a practitioner of Vajrayana, which is a Tibetan type of tradition. Then he had also contact when he was in Italy, inspired by a book with Christian mystics that have very much inspired him. But somehow, what is touching him most is Ramana Maharshi. And for many Hindus, Ramana Maharshi is there as a pure example of their tradition. But actually, Ramana is a bright, shining star in the sky who is not really limited to any tradition. He goes directly to the essence, but he uses terminology that is familiar in the Hindu tradition. Now, Mariana says sometimes he's a bit insecure, just following one tradition and then after that missing out in what is the others, is in the others. I think sometimes one can feel a bit lost if one dabbles into different traditions and then after that suddenly recognizes, oh, there are so many different things, and some of them they are the same, and some of them they are contradictory, and then how to deal with all that. Let's come back to the essence. Let's come back to that which makes all this possible. Let's come back to that which makes all our experiences possible. Now, Mariano, since you have such a natural, strong attraction to Ramana Maharshi, rely on Ramana Maharshi. You need not take every word and say, that's how it is, because Ramana, he was also adjusting how he talked to the audience. Sometimes he said about the same subjects in one way and sometimes in another way. But still, there is a fil rouge. Uh, uh, there is a thread that goes through all his talks that is always aiming at the essence. Open your heart to Ramana, to Ramana's teaching, through Ramana to your own self. That doesn't mean you should not read books from other traditions. Whatever is inspiring you when you confront a situation, should I go to a talk or to a retreat or to, should I read a book? If you feel so, do so. And then pick out that which is inspiring you. And if there is a lot of traditional stuff mixed in it that somehow you don't necessarily relate too much to, never mind. You just hold on to that pure, clear, direct teaching of Ramana Maharshi. And then, if you like that teaching, if it is inspiring you, even if you read other mystics, like you mentioned Meister Eckhart, that Christian Advaita teacher. Many things he says, they are so much the same like Ramana Maharshi, but then he talks to Christians and he talks about the Bible, and sometimes his interpretations are also a little bit far-fetched to somehow wanting to make a point. You just, when it's attracting you to read such a book, or to go to such talks, or to go to retreats, then you just pick out that which helps you to connect with what you feel from Ramana Maharshi most. And if there are external things that may be not to your liking or contradictory to what you have heard in other places, then never mind about it. It's the essence that counts. It's for that the traditions have started, and then over the time there has been a lot of stuff added to it that is not necessarily what is needed, but becomes more of a baggage. If somebody feels totally at ease in a tradition, with all the concepts, with all the rules, with all the do's and the don'ts, and feels concept and feels content and somehow secure in that framework and act and live accordingly, this is perfectly valid. But you don't have to put your mind to all that. Put your mind to the essence. And it's so beautifully expressed by Ramana Maharshi. Nobody can really tell the truth totally. We can just aim at. Even a great being like Ramana Maharshi is pointing to that which cannot be put in words. But he is pointing in such a way that it is, if you like this line, that is very direct, that is not loaded with a lot of unnecessary baggage. So hold on to that. Make that in your central point. He's not even really a tradition. He's unique. The Hindus feel very comfortable, so all they say he's a Hindu. But Ramana, he just was a manifestation of that divinity. And he could talk to anyone from any religion and inspire them and help them along. If in doubt, just come back to Ramana Maharshi. He's pointing back to yourself. What he is representing is that which is already in you. Ramana was aware of it. We have forgotten. We have to go through all these struggles to slowly peel away all the layers that have been put on top of that. But he's a beautiful guide. Look at him as a bright star in the sky, and you can follow him. And then, when you encounter teachings that are somehow rather disturbing for you, rules or concepts in traditions that's, that you cannot feel too easy with it, then you just let them go and come back to that straight, clear approach of Ramana Maharshi. If you make that in your center and you firmly hold on to that, then you won't get confused. Even if you read and hear other things, then you just pick out what is even strengthening that clarity more. And what is not helpful, you just let it pass by, ignore it. And then you won't have a problem, this tradition, that tradition, including one tradition or the other tradition. Let them be there. You can have respect for them. You pick out what is helpful, and the rest of it, you let them go their way and you go your way. If you hold on to Ramana Maharshi, you won't get confused. He's clear, he's simple, he's direct. Okay, I'm leaving the subject. There has been a lot of wind and thunder before, but now it seems it's calming down so we can peacefully continue our satsang here. Okay, I think somebody came in. Hello, Nava.
Hi, Werner. Thank you, first of all, for what you were just saying because it helps me
Ah, yeah.
to very much so. Um, there was something I wanted to ask you that I don't understand that's happening with me.
Hmm.
Um, I've spoken to you about restlessness before in the
Yes,
body,
yes.
but what's happening now is different. Um, The body is extremely restless. That doesn't seem to settle down, but it's very much in dissonance with what I seem to be feeling.
Hmm.
I much feel much calmer inside. I'm much more at peace with myself just the way I am. Much more connected to some, for lack of a better word, some essence. It's all much easier and much more direct than it's been.
Hmm.
And yet the body is just constantly restless.
Hmm.
And sometimes I ask myself, is there something I'm missing?
Hmm.
Because it doesn't make sense to me.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the question. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can seem to do about settling the body down.
Mhm.
It's almost as if my whole body is constantly vibrating.
Yeah, yeah. Right. It is also a very difficult situation. There are so many currents, energetic currents, very much active. They don't help to settle down physically. That's easy to feel restless, to feel in strain. Nevertheless, you can still try to bring that inner peace that you're feeling more and more, also on the physical level. Just remind yourself on and on, relax, relax the body, relax. Even if there is restlessness, relax. Relax your legs, relax your feet. It's a very simple thing, to remember, but it has quite an effect. That, and then if you do that a lot, more and more, it will, in spite of all those influences that very much support the opposite, that very much makes people full of tension and restlessness and often also violent, aggressive, that we somehow, in spite of all those influences, learn to relax more and more. And then that peacefulness you feel on a subtler level gradually can more and more manifest even on this level that also the body feels peaceful. Just keep on reminding yourself, relax, relax, relax physically, relax your legs, relax your feet, and then the body relaxes more. And the more you relax those energies that want to make you restless, and there is a lot of it on the way, it can't be helped. It's just the fact of the present situation. And especially, I think, in the place where you are, it's even special that those energies, they vibrate, and it's not easy not to tune into that. So by all means, keep on being strong, subtly, being at peace with yourself, being at peace in your mind, letting the peace that is beyond the mind shine through the mind. But then, when you constantly, a lot, relax, remind yourself to relax, more and more that peace will also shine through your body, and you will become less restless in spite of all the influences.
Are you saying that just the reminder will have an effect?
Yes. Well, when you remind yourself, you do as good as you can. You feel, you give the impulse, you relax your body, you relax your legs. If that's, people are not aware, but if there is a little tension, immediately the legs are very tense. Everybody
Mhm.
does that. Also, when there is a mental tension, then the whole body is tense, but immediately the legs are tensing up. If you remind yourself, just relax your legs. Then you will see, you will be surprised how much suddenly it's becoming easier to relax also in situations where actually everything around tries to make you tense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I will I will try.
It's simple, but one has to remember.
Mhm. Yes.
But
Yeah, I haven't done that.
you will remember because you're wondering why you are physically restless. And when you think about that, then you will remember, okay, don't look too much for a why. Don't look too much to try to solve it mentally, figuring out the reason and then uh, going to somehow solve it on that level, but just bring the attention to the physical level and give the impulse. Relax, relax, relax.
Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you.
my spiritual advice for you is to relax your legs.
That's bringing it down to the basics.
Actually, it's always about the basics. We
Yeah.
get very lofty spiritual in theories, in spaces, but it's always about mastering the basics. If we have the
Hmm.
basics in place, then the rest is just blossoming by itself.
Yeah. I've been in my meditation recently. I have gone back to the basics. I
Yes.
just, yes, I just sit, I watch the breath
Mm.
and watch the thoughts sometimes, but just keep coming back to the breath, just
Mm.
right back to the beginning. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And there's something very restful about it.
Right. And now you add to that to relax.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish you good luck with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hario, Hario.
Mario.
Is there anybody else who would like to come and say something? That's in a way the difficulty for the mind to accept that basically spirituality is not complicated. There are all these very sophisticated spiritual practices, and there are nothing wrong with them. If one feels attracted to something like that, by all means, go for all those techniques and practices. But the essence of it is always that it helps you to do just that, to be aware in the present, to not get carried away what goes through the mind, what goes through the body, what is happening in the circumstances, that one learns to connect and relax in that. The simplicity of it is amazing. It's so simple that the mind refuses to believe that it could be enough, that it could work. So we have to have more things. Fine, nothing wrong. We can add intense practices, but even there, in those practices, one has to learn to connect here now, to relax in that. The mind has no job there. And that's what is revolting on the mental level. We want to understand, we want to know the truth. But the thinking when knowing the truth is understanding more the subtle connections, all that is there, all that can happen. But knowing the truth is being the truth. And it's not something that we are with the mind, with the intellect, figuring out and then gradually understand. You are that essence. You are that truth. And the simplest thing is somehow to connect with that and let go and relax. And all the practices, they are crutches for the mind to keep the mind busy in the right direction. But then, if we don't give up that idea that I'm going to get it, the truth, I'm going to somehow grasp it, I'm going to understand it, there we are again stuck on the intellectual level. It is not possible. You cannot understand. You can be, you can experience. You are that. The simplicity is somehow driving the mind crazy. Having to accept, okay, understanding is certainly something that is very necessary on a practical level. It is very necessary in so many fields. It is also very necessary in the spiritual approach that we have at all the idea in which direction to look. That there is a possibility to live not in that little bubble that we have gotten used to live, but there is the possibility to let go of that and let the experience expand. To understand that is very helpful. But as soon as we try to understand what it is, the essence, there we hit the head against the wall. Or people who are not aware that they are doing that, they start to think they know now, they understand now, and they can discuss and fight with each other who has understood better. But actually, they have missed the point. The understanding is just to help to look in the right direction and help to let go of all that stands in the way of that natural glory that is already there. Swami Chinmayananda, I was in his school first when I came to India, and a great Vedanta teacher. He told a story about what mantra japa is about. And the story goes like this, that there was a guru and he had a disciple that was very sincere, and then, but he was living his life away from his guru, not in a gurukula. And at a certain point, the guru said, okay, I give you a help that your external life is easier. So I give you a subtle being because there are a lot of subtle beings that he controlled. I give you a subtle being that is going to do the jobs for you. You can see him, the others cannot see him. And whatever you tell him, he will do it for you. So you don't have to be busy with all these external things. And the disciple was very happy. And then he was going to his place and thought, okay, then let's see whether this works. Because that being, the guru had a, but he said, there is one, there's one thing you have to be careful. That being has to be kept busy. If you don't keep him busy, then he will come and devour you. So you have to keep him busy, the disciple thought that's easy, no problem. I can easily keep him busy. And so he went away. And when he was in his place, he told that jinn, that subtle being, okay, now you can break down my old house. You can construct a very nice, beautiful house. And he describing him what he had in mind. And he settled down peacefully. That fellow went away. And after a short time, he came back and said, and the master, the new master said, hey, why are you coming? I told you what to do. The other one said, it's done. He said, what? All that I have been telling you, you're not telling me that's already finished. It's done. Okay, I'm coming, looking. And he was so surprised. There was a beautiful building there, as he had imagined. So he started to give him a lot of little details, jobs, but whenever he said something, after a moment, the fellow was back and said, it's done. Already ready to jump on him. And at the beginning, he thought it was very funny. So he was doing more fancy stuff and more fancy stuff. But eventually, he was terrorized and thinking, what can I do? Whatever I'm telling him, after a moment, it's done. So you have to do something about that. He said to me, okay, carry me back to my master. And then when he was with his master, he said, okay, this is wonderful what this being is capable of, but whatever I'm telling him, it's already done. Then how can I keep him busy that he is not after that going after me? And the master, he smiled and he said, okay, you go back again to your place, you tell him to put the pillar in your garden, and then whenever he's not busy with something that he has to do for you, you tell him, you just go up and down and up and down and up and down that pillar. Then he's not a danger to you. And his meaning was that that pillar was the mantra japa, and that being was the mind ready to construct anything at any moment, but actually is always hurting the one who is thinking, if one is not aware that this is just an instrument. And so that pillar sending that being up and down was the mantra japa, that instead of thinking, and then using up all the energy of the one who is prior to thinking, then this energy can be contained, can be channeled. And this is not only true for mantra japa, it's true for all the spiritual practices. That instead of letting the thoughts free range, that they are going on and identifying with them, learn to detach from them and learn to direct them in a line that is helpful, that is not eating up all our life force, that is not strengthening always those thoughts, those habits, those layers that keep us from being aware of our own natural, divine nature. Practices, they are very helpful. The point of it is that we are not getting all distributed all over the place with our attention and losing our precious life force for nothing or for often destructive things that hurt us, that hurt our body, that hurt our life, that hurt people around us. That we learn to use that beautiful capacity to think, to form consciousness into reasonable thought in such a way that it is not using up our energy, but that it helps us to bring the attention back to the essence. Okay, that was a story from Swami Chinmayananda. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Please do so. You are welcome to do so. Mhm. The essence is silent. And if we can just stay in that silence, that is wonderful. If there are things that are disturbing, then it helps also to talk about, to bring them more in the open. That can help to let them go. Because of that, that paradox is makes sense that we are doing satsang, that we are talking about something that cannot be talked about, but it can be helpful to see the obstacles, to become aware what is preventing us from being in conscious touch with that essential divinity. So, if there is anyone who would like to come in and say something, you are welcome to do so. In Ramana's place, when he was there in the body, often there were animated conversations, animated discussions, often amongst the people, and Ramana would just sit there. And people would ask him questions. Sometimes he would reply immediately. Sometimes he would take his own time and reply after some time. Sometimes suddenly the next day he would reply to a question that has been asked the day before. And sometimes he didn't say anything. People were just looking at him or sitting there with eyes closed and meditating. It was all the same for him, talking, not talking. There were scholarly people who thought, oh, Bhagavan, when you were young and you were sitting in your profound absorptions in the temple and in Virupaksha cave, there you were really in a higher state. And now you're sitting here, you're reading, you're talking to people. You have come down from that, but Ramana, he was always amused by these kind of things. He says the state is the same. There I was keeping quiet, and now I'm often talking. So he was just silently sitting there, people looking at him, many hardly ever saying anything, just being there quiet in his presence. And somehow, in that intensity of that place, of that situation, things would start to get resolved by themselves. But then others would come and ask questions. There were people who were asking questions very regularly, and he patiently would accept it and talk about it. The satsang is the connection with truth. Also sitting in silence with a teacher or alone, connecting directly with the essence or connecting from far with a teacher, that is the satsang. Nevertheless, when doubts are bubbling up and there is something that comes nagging again and again, sometimes it's helpful just to speak it out and discuss it in order to let it go. So, because of that, I'm encouraging you again. If there is anyone who would like to say something, you're welcome to do so. I don't know whether you can hear it, but the neighbor dogs, they want to say something. Ah, I see Andreas. Did you come in
Yes,
on
hello.
purpose? Hello? Yeah.
Um, yeah, my mind always wants to verify things. And I mean, as far as I understand you, um, putting your attention on like bodily sensations or feelings helps to get more into the present.
Mhm.
But how to manage that you don't get fixed too much on these sensations or feelings, and because the basically you, yeah, I mean, where to put the attention? Should you like open up the attention, or while doing it keep an open mind?
Mm. You need not identify with those sensations, with those perceptions. You can just be centered in yourself. If you want to, if you choose to, you can be centered also physically on a certain point, and then see what in your psychophysical manifestation is happening, what kind of sensations are coming, but not go along with them and identify, just see they are here, but they are here right now. It brings you to the present. And how to not get stuck on that level? You do just that, what I said in the beginning to Nava. You just observe, you see them, and you relax. And if you relax, you don't get stuck on that level.
What to do about this tendency always to verify the experience? Am I doing it right? Is this going in the right direction? This is like constantly coming in.
Hmm. Touching, valuing, this is good, this is not good, putting it into the little drawers that one has in order. That's the old habit that on the mental level, we want to be in control. We want to understand. It gives a sense of security if we do that. It's a false sense of security, but out of habit, one feels secure if one is somehow clear, understanding, on top of the situation, knowing what's going on. And so that habit may be very strong. And when you see it, then as good as you can. You just step a step back from that also. Okay, there these thoughts come again, and observe the thoughts. As you observe the body sensations, you observe the thoughts that immediately want to give a commentary how good it is and how not good it is, and evaluate the quality of the present meditation. Put it in the scale of from 1 to 10. Then when you say that, then you just also don't approve or disapprove, you just also watch those thoughts. Aha, there they are again. They don't mean anything. It's just an old habit. Be here, be now, centered. And if it helps you, for me, has become the most helpful tool. It's not for everybody the same, but uh, if it helps you, then if there is too much going on, then you just redirect the attention to the breath. Breathe consciously. And then the mind starts, oh, you're doing it quite nicely now. Then again, you redirect, you see, oh, that there is that thought again. It comes, it goes, you redirect the attention to the actual, direct, immediate experience of breathing or feeling the body, and you relax.
So putting the attention to the breathing or bodily sensations is a little bit more than just keeping the mind running up and down the pillar. It has the side effect that it's always now, right?
Right. It's always now. If we do techniques, then that is like sending the attention up and down the pillar. And but then if you come really directly in touch with being consciously conscious, consciously alive in the present, that goes a step further than that. Actually, no, it goes a step nearer. It comes right home.
Is there a certain quality that comes with it? Like this, you always speak about the bubbling energy.
Yeah, but then this is tricky to ask about it and me replying. Then after that, you have again a reason in your meditation to put a judgment whether it has worked well or not. And it is also dependent on a lot of subtle influences. Sometimes you connect and you relax and it's simply there immediately. That that bubbling awareness, that bubbling joyousness of existence. And sometimes you may really be quite focused and it's not strongly there, but there may be a lot of other influences there that rather keep it at bay. So there's no point of putting then an evaluation, a touchstone of your performance now. But if it's there, accept it gratefully. If it goes, accept that it's again gone and the experience is less juicy than before. But if you are still connecting, then you definitely are not opening the door to suffering.
As far as I understand it now, or how I imagine it, let's put it that way, is that there might be moments or a moment when like the identification with the body and mind drops away, and that would feel different. But there's no way to, this is just grace, basically, right?
Hmm.
When this, there's no way to.
You can't do it, but you can make yourself available by opening up to that, by attempting to not identify, but to rather observe. And by doing so, you are giving the invitation out into that divine space that grace starts to manifest. That's a tricky thing for the mind to somehow grasp that we cannot grasp it, to grasp that we cannot do it. And yet we can do something about it by making ourselves available. And we make ourselves available by, as good as we can, pull the attention back to the present. And then already it's have the tendency to jump a bit to something and jump to this and jump to that. But then to be aware that there is something that is immovable in that whole thing, that it's there, whether we are aware of it or not, immovably there all the time. And by that dawning awareness, then it's inviting that the grace manifests, that it becomes more of a clear experience, that it becomes more expansive, that it's in, and it can manifest in so many different aspects.
So why don't I see it?
You are it. How can you see it? You are it. You see so many things, and then you think that's what you are, and that we'll have to learn not to do.
Not to make up a subject-object relationship.
Right. Then you have all those habits manifesting, and that is Andreas, and that's what you think that's what I am, out of old habit of being that personality, instead of understanding, okay, I'm playing that role on this level, but prior to that, I am.
That is prior to all the categorization and giving things names and even to time and space, right?
Right. Uh, That doesn't mean you have to then somehow put that away and it should not happen. Yeah, the there is on that level time and space, and within time and space are all those things and things in order to uh, intelligently communicate have been given names. But at the same time, when you start to get rooted in that which is immovable, then these names are not disturbing. Then it's that same immovable divinity that is also dynamic and is manifesting in all these names and forms.
This is the same.
It is an expression of the same. There is the immovable essence, and everything in manifestation is an expression, a manifestation of that. So it's the same, and yet it's not exactly the same, but essentially the same.
Is it that when Buddhists say samsara and nirvana are the same?
I guess that's what they mean, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
These are my questions for today.
Okay. You're welcome. Hario. Hario. Is there anybody else who would like to come and speak? I'm aware that if one has attended for quite some time my satsangs, then you know that I'm always grasping what people are talking and bring it back in the same lines to come back home in one way or another. So after some times the question run out, and that is fine. We don't have to force ourselves to keep on questioning. And yet, in the day-to-day life, there are always things springing up that come to the mind that somehow it still sometimes helps to discuss. And so I'm inviting again. Is there anyone who would like to come and talk? You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Anita.
Hello, Werner. Oh, I just wanted to say, did I hear right? The samsara and nirvana should be the same. That's right.
It's not exactly, they should be the same, but then sometimes Buddhist teachers say that they are the same.
Oh, really? I never heard that. I thought samsara is the wheel of life and coming, going, and the nirvana is the liberation.
Right.
Uh,
That is on a certain level the understanding that, but then if you step a step back further, then you become aware that which is immovable and that which is movable, the dynamic and the immovable aspect of that mystery of existence, they are the same. If
right.
you don't identify with the movement, you are not in samsara. You can be in nirvana and fully be aware of all the movements and play your role. And then, if you are looking at what is happening from that perspective, then there is no difference between nirvana and samsara. Because basically, you are ever free.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Of course, that can be a shocking statement. Samsara and nirvana are the same, as the whole teaching is that everybody is immersed in samsara and somehow has to painfully work the way out in order to reach nirvana. But this is just a way of talking about it. It's not that here is samsara and there is nirvana. It's just a way of experiencing. Hello, Daya.
Hello, Werner. Uh, I'm not sure, maybe I already asked it, but again, I want to clarify it. This nirvana, what is this exactly? Because sometimes ago between Vipassana students, we have big discussion, and some people said nirvana is just finish everything, even consciousness disappear, and nothing can be said about it. It's something beyond everything, and actually it's nothing. And another people said, no, nirvana is reality. It's a great reality, which is more real than this world. And you cannot say it's just stop perceptions and stop consciousness. So, and my opinion that nirvana is similar that paradise, but paradise is not forever. It's just for some times, and then the being going to another reality. And nirvana seems to me it's just a paradise, but forever paradise. What you said about nirvana?
Yes, I mean, it depends what you mean with paradise. If you mean a very beautiful place where you just can live happily forever, then it's not what it means, an eternal heaven. After all, exactly, these terms, they are pointers to something that we cannot talk about. And those two opinions that you said that happened in those discussions about what is nirvana, that some people say, oh, it's just beyond everything. It's also beyond consciousness, and there's simply nothing. And then others they say, no, it's nirvana is the truth. It's the life. It's reality. They apparently are contradictions, and they are not. That I totally agree with that. The first statement that you said, some people had, you cannot even start to understand what really is. And nirvana is just one of the names that are pointing to that. That is not something that we can possibly describe and understand, grasp. That's why Buddha, he was not really talking about it. He was mentioning that you can reach that, but he was not trying to give definitions or explanations. He was just teaching, helping people to get out of their mess, get out of their mental state, get out of their suffering, and come back home to that something that is not really possible to put in words. And you can call it nirvana, or you can call it the essence, Brahman. You can call it whatever you like, but you can never hope to, with this human intellect, to understand what it is.
Werner, in Buddhist scriptures, they very clearly describe different levels of paradise. Actually, they're talking about 31 level of reality, and there is paradise over higher than another paradise and higher another paradise, and they describe in it. It's just something like life in another country. You can speak normal speech, yes. But what is the difference between highest paradise and nirvana? Why we could not talk about it?
It is because all these different paradises they describe, they are expression of something that is prior, that is not a form, but it's not nothing. Shunyata is also a pointer to that, and the Purna of the Hindus is actually also a pointer, and it's both. It's prior to consciousness, but it includes consciousness. And if it includes consciousness, it includes all the manifestations, but not only the paradises, but also the worlds and the hells and everything. It's prior to that, it's all that, but it's not simply that. It's not something that can be put in names and forms like this, but something that makes all this name and form manifestation possible.
Hmm. Yes, so it's really something different than paradise.
It's
Correctly understand?
If you think of paradise in a very beautiful place where you just can live there as a being, very happy for forever or not forever, then yes, it's different. But as I said, the paradise is not different from that. It's an expression of that. But that which is prior to the expression cannot be called it's the paradise. How a paradise, however happy it sounds, that paradise, it's still an expression. And that which is prior to that. It's it's the source of happiness, not just being happy for some time.
Mm. Yeah, for some people, it's not motivating when some Buddhists even say it's spiritual suicide. When you will reach Nibbana, there will be nothing. And some people can even stop practicing. That's why I am really looking for clear definition. And
Yes.
one of the students was said the story how Buddha was try describing nirvana. The story is like this: Buddha have a disciple, the monk, and this monk, before he's become a monk, he have a girlfriend. He planning to get married, but then he became a monk, and for a few years he meditating, become a monk, but then he become very sad. And Buddha asked him, "Why you are so sad?" He said, "I'm still have memory about this woman. I would like to get married about her." And then Buddha bring him up to the very high level paradise and show him a spiritual woman. Look at this woman. Do you like this woman? How comparing to this your girlfriend? He said, yes, this is really wonderful woman. And Buddha said, okay, if you will reach special state, then I will give you access to this spiritual woman. And this monk was working for many years. And then Buddha asked, I'm not sure how the story was. So you get this level, I can give you access to these spiritual women. And he said, yes, I got this level, but I don't need this spiritual woman anymore because I see something more higher, something like this. Difficult to speak, but it's better than very beautiful things that we can imagine.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
only story.
I see. Yes, right. Exactly. As long as we are thinking of paradise, then we are all also projecting how fantastically beautiful, how fantastically happy, how fantastically ecstatic it must be. But we still may have all these kind of ideas how this paradise looks. And you said uh, in certain traditions in Buddhism, they are describing also the details of those paradises. I don't know about that, but yes, it's an expression. It's something that is temporary. Even if it's very long, it has comes into being, it's there manifesting. Eventually, it's dissipating again. But that what we are looking for is prior to that. It hasn't a beginning, it hasn't an ending. It's not in its growth time, it's also not in any subtle time. It's prior to that. Everything we can possibly imagine is an expression of that, however fantastically beautiful and joyous and ecstatic and harmonious and whatever it is, whatever we can imagine is an expression for that which makes that imagination possible. So sometimes this may happen. Then you said sometimes Buddhists stop practicing because they say, if I'm reaching there, everything disappears. So it's like suicide, and they don't want to commit suicide, but they want to enjoy. But this is also, this again is a trick of the mind. There is nothing that you possibly lose by going beyond. It's not that if you go beyond the level, that after that you lose the little choice that you have of that level. It's just because you are not attached and think that your happiness depends on those little enjoyments, you're opening up to a vaster level. Is not that you are losing whatever joy is there, that joy of existence becomes magnified. And the more you get expansive, and it's not that eventually, finally, you are ending up like nothing, a stone, or where there is just not even joy, not even happiness. You are the essence of that happiness. So it's not that finally you have struggled, getting subtler, getting better, getting higher, getting more expensive, and then finally all puff disappears in smoke, and then there is nothing there. That nothing is not a thing, and yet it's full to the brim with that joyousness of existence and with the potential of all the happiness that could manifest, that could express. So it's not that finally you are losing everything, but you're hitting the jackpot. But the jackpot is here. Every time you bring the attention back to the present, every time you connect consciously, every time you relax in that, at least a trace of that peaceful joyousness comes to the surface. And we become aware that Buddhists who think like this and then stop practicing because they don't want at the end lose everything, then they use that just an excuse because they are a bit fed up of simply practicing.
Mhm.
You are
And
that you are the source of your happiness. You are the source of fulfillment. And it's not that we find it in a high state. You are the source of that. And if you are coming prior to that, even prior to consciousness, is not that finally you're losing everything, but you are at the hub of it, at the center of it. You're with the full total potential of everything that possibly could manifest.
okay, Werner, thank you. And one more question. If some person get the state of nirvana and he left the body, can he see what is going on from nirvana on this level on the earth? Can he communicate to his disciples, for example?
Can, if he wants to, can in the blink of an eye see any world, anywhere, anytime.
Okay, so good. I like such nirvana. Okay, thank you, Werner. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hario, Hario, you're welcome.
That was a very interesting statement which you just gave. that the one who dissolved into nirvana or realized that he was always in nirvana has this capacity to perceive anything. So he has become something like God, something like the universal consciousness.
Yes.
That's very fascinating. So I feel it's also interesting to see that in the connection with having a deceased teacher. For example, you said to Mariano he should follow Ramana, and I think it's kind of dangerous to follow a teacher just by the books. I mean, certainly in the books, the teacher kind of leaves its flavor, leaves its attitude towards the world and everything. But just reading these books about Ramana, it does not, it's not the same like sitting in front of him, or is it?
No, it's not quite the same. Teacher manifest in the physical body has possibilities that the teacher not in the body doesn't have, but then there are a lot of other possibilities. And of course, reading the books doesn't do the job. Reading the books and understanding the words doesn't do the job. But when you read Ramana, it's conversation. Then it's possible to not so much be busy with the teaching, with the words itself, but just reading that the heart can open and connect in a way that is way beyond what you find in the books. And if somebody has that attraction for Ramana and then can do so, then actually it becomes like sitting in front of Ramana.
Okay. I still doubt that this is really very practicable because in my own case, I met several teachers, and even those teachers kind of worked on me. It was difficult to follow them, and it was difficult to really let go and everything. So even for in my experience, even with a living teacher, it's difficult to kind of really open up and unfold the way it what would be possible in theory. So just by reading, for example, some long deceased saints, they can kind of inspire me, but really kick my butt and really kind of help my deep convictions, which are kind of limiting myself. I mean, is it not illusory?
No, it is one kind of course, easier with a teacher that is not in the body, uh, project one's own uh, ideas and imaginations and feel, this teacher wants me to do this and that, but actually it's my own my own story that I want to follow, and then I think, no, I'm being guided to do so. So the possibility of straying off further is there, but somehow or other, if that heart connection is there sooner or later, somehow uh, life will start to teach it. And if somebody has that strong connection with a teacher, even if the teacher is not manifest in a physical body, then that straying away may be less long than somebody who just doesn't have any connection like this. Then life may have to hammer harder until some understanding dawns than if that heart contact is there with a teacher. Of course, if you live with a teacher, and the teacher kicks your butt, then you stray less. But then it's not for everybody to stand this and keep on living with the teacher.
Okay, another question related to mantra japa
Yes.
and Vipassana-like techniques. That means you just focus on something and just kind of stay with a quiet mind and just focus on the breath or kind of focus on some longing question like who am I? Are these questions, are these techniques who are just techniques connected with awareness? Are they kind of higher and more difficult techniques? And the mantra, the whole mantra techniques are more for people who are not capable of doing the just pure awareness techniques?
Mm.
Or can one not say some, is this kind of a wrong notion? Because I mean, with the mantra, you are kind of moving the mind still. You're in the mind. Whereas if you watch your breath, you just, if you can manage, the mind is still. There's no real strong mind there.
Mm. Right. But also with the mantra japa. I mean, the mind wants to think, wants to build castles, wants to travel into one's fantasies, but repeating a word or a line or a phrase over and over and over, the mind very quickly has nothing to do there anymore. Then, then that what we call the mind, that habit of wanting to just ramba, 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 think and go here and there and so it's totally boring for that aspect of the mind to repeat a mantra over and over. And then it's not more a mental exercise, even if you use words. So no, I would not agree that those purely spiritual or intellectual exercises that they are higher. People are just different, and someone is responding to one type of practice easier than to another type of practice. What makes the difference whether that practice is effective and brings you home is the sincerity with what we are doing. So, and there have been many great Mahatmas that just didn't do anything else but connecting with that divinity by repeating their mantra over and over and over in childlike innocence, and whatever impurities were there that separated them from that divinity in course of the process that disappeared. I know that, for example, some Vipassana teachers, they say this mantra, this is all not helpful. It can quieten you down a little bit, but you have to observe the body and see there where it's coming from, and only it's like this you can. But this is again not true. You can, by observing the body sensations and relax, let go of those tensions. But somebody who keeps on doing mantra japa, it can have a bit of lulling effect for the mind, but it doesn't go on and on and on like this. For some time, it gives you maybe a little bit uh, like a little drug that you do the mantra, but after, if you keep on doing it, that disappears, and then the mantra is then just one way of keeping your connection with that divinity, and all the stuff that is there in the subconscious that disturbs wants to disturb your mantra, that then the mantra on a certain level may repeat, but then the mind starts to travel off again. And if one is sincere with the mantra and becomes aware and brings the attention back to the mantra, then this is equally intense spiritual exercise like coming back by asking, who am I? But I'm sure that who am I practitioners, they would not agree to what I just said.
So basically, you say that the practice should suit the practitioner and the kind of the eagerness and the faith and the intensity with which the practitioner does this practice that finally brings about the effect. It's not the thing itself. It's kind of one has to kind of find one's practice, which one can do with the most faith and
Right, exactly.
mm,
And it may be that the techniques become subtler and subtler on the way, but sometimes it may also the opposite may happen, that you did more uh, apparently subtle practice, and then you include suddenly with something that other people would say, oh, this is on a lower level, and it becomes that which is helpful and natural, and if you do it with sincerity, it will bring you all the way home. When I was the second time in my cave, and uh, I had somebody had made an interview. And so you could read that the previous I had been doing self-inquiry mainly at the side, a bit yoga and pranayama, at the other side, the mantra and the relationship with Ama. But the central point was jnana and self-inquiry. And at a certain point in my story, this shifted, that the yogic aspect became predominant, that I included the energy, being aware of the breath, and through the breath, the energy. Still, uh, basically with the mood of self-inquiry, but not practicing self-inquiry. And then somebody came down who has read that, came down to me in the cave and said, you really have come down. Huh? You were there on the highest approach and now you are doing this kind of stuff again. This is a misconception. You can also suddenly include uh, aspects that some people may think that they are lower, that they are grosser, and you should have gone beyond them. And they are the natural way for you to really connect. And actually, that's what it was for me, and it stayed.
thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Shall we leave it at that?
Yeah.
Hari Om for
Hari Om.
today. Hari Om. Hari Om. I started out talking about the traditions. But now we started about the different types of practices. And it's the same for both. I mean, most of the worn, well-threaded paths with techniques, they belong to some tradition or another. And the technique is exactly what we said now with Lutz. That which is the most natural. It's the best technique. And all this categorizing, this is lower, this is higher, this is again the human mind game. This tradition is better, that tradition is better. We can pick up something that is really natural for us. Maybe over time it may shift. It may add, we may add aspects. We may start to create something new as a mixture that is our own way to go about it. What counts is that we really opening up to what it is for. That the technique is a help to open up to the essence, to that which we are. The tradition should point continuously at what we are and not about what we should and should not do, and we should believe and should not believe, and I'm right and the other is wrong. But the traditions also should be a help. We can pick out this from the traditions. We can use the technique to bring the attention back home, and then any technique that helps us best, that helps us to do so, is the highest technique. And that is very different from one to another. The technique is a help. And what we are doing with it is that which counts. And that depends how sincerely we really practicing these techniques, whether we just want to achieve some kind of power, whether we just want to achieve some kind of comfortable state, whether we want to achieve this or that or anything, or whether we want to use that technique to help us to bring the attention back home and getting rooted in that. That is the real job to do. It's not when you are really rooted that then the story is, that's the end of the story. Then the experience starts to unfold and unfold, and the intensity of that starts, keeps on unfolding. There's no end to that. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.